What is up, everyone? King Jobber here, kind of doing something a little new, something that I'm not normally used to. You know, I'm normally commentating fighting games, but now I'm going to talk a little bit about a match I had in Armored Core 6. Less about the match and more about the setup, right? The title of this video is trying to make the Harris rifle work, and as you all know, the Harris rifle is a semi-automatic rifle that you get pretty, I want to say around the middle of the game, right? Around the middle of the game after you fight the Nightfall, whatever the other Raven is, right? After you fight them, you unlock this weapon. I've been trying out a bunch of different setups with it, trying to make it work because I think that the charge shot on it is pretty good, actually. It has very good accuracy at decent range. It does a ton of stagger damage, nearly a full bar of stagger damage on most opponents, even tanks. And also, it has a pretty decent critical hit modifier. Could be a bit higher, you know, in a world of Zimmermans and of insane melee weapons and lances and shock pistols. We definitely could use a buff to some of the weapons that take a little bit more skill to use, right? But anyway, I've been playing around a lot with a lot of different options on the left hand, from missile launchers to missile launchers on the shoulders as well. And I've kind of settled at the moment into this setup. I don't know if it's the most optimal. There's still parts I have not unlocked, and I'm still trying to play around. That's kind of part of why this video has been made, is because I want to open a discussion about these rifles and see, is there anything else or any other setups that people are running with this that they find work out pretty well? In terms of the actual AC build itself, nothing too special, right? I'm not going to go over the actual parts. It's just a middleweight build of stuff that I threw together that I thought was cool, not really optimized. But as you can see, the current game plan here is I'm running dual Harris rifles. That's what I found kind of works out the best, right? It gives you the ability to get that critical hit if you stun them with one shot, or you could stun them with two shots and then follow up with the songbirds on your shoulders. Now, I've had people suggest maybe using the soups, using something else that could deal more stagger damage and kind of lock onto the opponent and track them a little easier for pressure. But the reason why I've enjoyed the songbirds is because the songbirds themselves are pretty accurate at middle range. They do a lot of damage and a lot of stagger as well, which helps you get those critical hit shots off with the Harris rifles. But on top of it, too, they're a great get-off-me tool for when the opponent is right on you. When you're dealing with these people rushing you down with the Zimmermans, right, or rushing you down with pistols, that is a good way to just jump in the air and blast them. In a lot of cases, you'll take out a chunk of their health and deal a lot of stagger damage to them as well. And if you don't have your rifles charged, like that, that's a great shot right there. Then you can really use the opportunity to escape, which is something that you kind of have to do a lot with this build, right? I don't think it's that great in 1v1s necessarily, but I was kind of more thinking of it as like a sniper in and out team battle build anyway, or team battle weapon. But that's the reasoning for the songbirds, right? Really solid tool to get off you, or if you get the stuns, you can kind of shoot them from far away and still get that damage in. It's very much a hit and run kind of build where you're peppering your opponent with shots, supporting your teammates who are trying to go in and rush down. It's another option, right, is you can pop some shots from far away, stagger opponents who are fighting your teammates, or of course you can pick them off as well if your teammates get the stagger. Only about 2 minutes left in this match, but as you can see throughout the match, I've gotten some nice little shots here, building up a lot of stagger on the opponent, and just kind of weaving in and out of combat. There's another good shot right there. Critical hit damage could be higher. I think it normally depends on how much defense they have when it comes to ballistics, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the end game armors, or the really good armors, have decent ballistic defense. Here's another situation where it's a common downside of this build is that you're going to have to run away. When you don't have your songbirds ready, if you're being overwhelmed, you have to run away and just recharge your rifles again. But been enjoying this. I've wanted to use some underutilized weapons in the game. Of course, like anyone else, I've made the crazy builds where you just drop the needle launchers on your back and you come in with the shotguns to stagger people. 8,000 damage there, just popping them off with a friend of mine. You can see the shields there, easy to deal with also because you don't necessarily have to charge the rifles. So a lot of people have been switching to that pulse armor, kind of like the Tears of Denial, right? So once they reach 0 HP, it saves them with 1 HP. That's super easy. You just don't charge your rifles. You just pop them. If you have a good ACS for about mid to long range, I want to say, with this build, you can still make those shots even though the actual fire rate of the rifles themselves are pretty slow. And of course, I haven't really tested this build out in the open maps yet. I've kind of been trying to exclusively play on these city maps because they're the most fun with cover. But there's a good setup right there, right? Dealing a ton of damage just by getting the stagger and popping them with the songbirds. It's a lot of burst fire, and honestly, I'd say the biggest weakness of this build is that everything that I shoot basically leaves me standing completely still, which is not necessarily something that you want in some of these high-pressure situations. So, of course, this build definitely loses to rushdown. But that's kind of all my thoughts. I know a bit jumbled. The first time I've ever done talkover for a match like this, but I mean, thank you all for checking it out, and I'm just going to let the rest of this match run out so you guys can finish it up and just see how it ends here with 5 seconds. So, thanks for tuning in.